you can't even define what a woman is. You might amend a bill, but you'll never amend biology. Science is not Burger King. You can't just have it your way. I am the youngest member of the House of Representatives, and I never imagined that one of my sacred duties in this hallowed chamber would be explaining to the House Speaker the difference between a man and a woman. Take notes, Madam Speaker. I'm about to define what a woman is for you. XX chromosomes, no tallywhacker. It's so simple.
Sorry. I was ready for it and I still wasn't ready for it. Madison Cawthorn, they're complaining about how he's not gonna vote for Ketanji Brown Jackson to be confirmed to the Supreme Court because he does know what a woman is. We know about the line that they've been pushing ever since the hearings where they were questioning her consistently about that particular line, among other things, 1 to 2 other things, that's all they were concerned with. But he was upset and he wants to make sure you go, I know what a woman is, tallywhacker, no tallywhacker. He's not the only one that was upset about the confirmations process for her. Here's more.
Me that she is more committed to woke progressive ideology than she is to common sense and the rule of law. And it tells me that she will not be able to decide with impartiality the cases that are sure to come before her as a Supreme Court justice. How, for example, will Judge Jackson be able to resolve sex discrimination claims if she can't decide whether the parties before her are women?
So it's connected to sexual discrimination claims there, according to Marsha Blackburn, because of this answer from Ketanji Brown Jackson during those hearings. This is what they're still upset about. Watch this.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
That was the exchange heard round the conservative party circles, because that's about as far as anyone who cared about that went. So this is one of their bases for why they're gonna vote against her. We already knew that. Many of these Republicans don't even have to announce that they're gonna vote against her. We already knew. It's old news. We get it when you were in there yelling and complaining the entire time. But there were a few that did jump on board. But Alonzo, before we get to them, I do want to get your thoughts on what they this first push from specifically Madison Cawthorn, because that was the hook.
Okay, first of all, they're not voting for her because she's a black woman. Okay, can we just say it and stop pretending there's any other reason? She's a black woman, and if they're not racist, they know their base is, and they have to conform to the base. So she's more qualified to do her job than the last 2 justices they confirmed. It's not even close with Amy, the handmaid, whatever her name is.
Tony Barrett.
Yeah, I never remember her name. I just think of her as a handmaid, a Supreme Court justice who's never been in a trial. She'd never been in a trial court. That's mind-boggling, okay? But anyway, as far as Cawthorn's concerned, really, Burger King, you can't have science your way? We went through 2 years of a pandemic where you guys denied science every day. Now suddenly, scientists matter. Scientists, and as far as Blackburn, you know how she knows what a woman is? She votes against their rights every time it comes up. That's how she recognizes a woman. She knows sexual discrimination because she's a woman who discriminates against women. She's like, I have to recognize them to make sure that they're not paid equally, to make sure that you're allowed to sexually harass them at work, to make sure they don't get maternity leave. I recognize women right away so I can vote against them.
If you haven't noticed, that's the point of why, half the reasons why that they're there. She can definitely notice it. Again, we just talked about Charlie Kirk and how suddenly he cares. We're the feminists when it comes to anything that he's complaining about. Now suddenly they care about sexual harassment claims. They care about adjudicating those issues. They care about those things that every time it's brought up, they go, well, what was she wearing? What did she say to him? Did she advance in her career? All those things get brought up when someone brings up sexual harassment claims. But now when they want to complain about what is a woman, to someone being confirmed to the Supreme Court, now they care about those things. Because I was really trying to find how Marsha Blackburn would connect that to what this has to do with Ketanji Brown Jackson being confirmed. Which cases are gonna cross her desk that we're gonna have to talk about whether or not you think someone's a woman or not, because you have this hate-filled ideology and push towards the 22 elections. Honestly, this is all about trying to make sure they get reelected or elected in the midterms. No, so there's a few of them that did, as I point out, that did say openly and out loud that they are gonna vote for her. So let's check this out. Senators Mitt Romney of Utah and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska joined a third Republican, Susan Collins of Maine, in lending their support to Judge Jackson, defying deep resistance in the party, in their party to the nominee. The GOP opposition was underscored anew on Monday when all 11 Republicans on the Judiciary Committee voted against the nomination. That's the least surprising thing of all times. Also, in a statement announcing her support for Judge Jackson, Ms. Murkowski, who is not on the committee, said that she was backing the nominee in part to reject the corrosive politicization of the review process for the Supreme Court nominees, which, as she of course is gonna say, on both sides of the aisle is growing worse and more detached from reality by the year. She also praised the judge's qualifications, which no one questions, her demonstrated judicial independence, her demeanor and temperament, and the important perspective that she would bring to the court in replacing Justice Stephen G. Breyer. Now, Alonzo, a part of that, they mentioned Mitt Romney at the beginning, and there was someone that tweeted about it. And I can't remember the group, I was looking for it again, but there was a group that said, surprising that Mitt Romney had an issue with child sex traffickers or pedophiles until he's now confirming Ketanji Brown Jackson. Looks like it might match up. So there's this insinuation that now, if you confirm Ketanji Brown Jackson and you're a Republican, that you're a pedophile. They can't stop connecting the two things no matter what. When their brain is that closely connected to being pedophilia, I think you might be thinking about it a little bit too much.
Well, that's the whole QAnon signaling, the pedophile thing. I don't know how QAnon got all caught up on that everybody in the Democratic Party is a pedophile, but it's nonsense. I think Mitt Romney might be the only Republican who's gonna be brave enough to actually vote for her confirmation. The others are talking, we'll see how it goes. I hope they don't. I honestly hope that they don't. I hope the vote splits right along party lines so that Kamala Harris, a black woman, can provide the vote that confirms the first black woman to the Supreme Court. I honestly want that to happen. What a phenomenal moment in history that would be. I also believe, I read an editorial about this, it was when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court needs to be expanded, but not by a little, by a lot. There should be 25 justices. That way, when one justice dies, it doesn't affect every decision made by the Supreme Court in history. You know what I mean? Like that way, nobody has that much power. That's what this problem is. This problem, now we're looking at the overturning of Roe v. Wade and all of the voting rights acts and things like that, because we lost one or two justices in the past couple of years. And this is the way it's gonna happen because all of these justices now, right, are all in their 50s, all of these justices being added to the court, which means if we keep this system, in 30 years, they're gonna be retiring or passing on, and then we'll have all of this again. You know what I mean? Because the life of one justice is too important. Expand the court so that each individual justice doesn't have that much power. That's all. Yeah, you see him behind me. I got to keep an eye on him. I never know what he's chewing.
It's one of the best kinds of dogs. Can you imagine you're a live person, as we all are, and just because you're sitting on the Supreme Court, you get sick, maybe you slip on some ice, break your tailbone, and you're 70 years old. And the entire news cycle is he gonna die? Is he gonna die? Wait, is he gonna die? Because if he dies, we can do this. If he dies, oh man, we gotta keep him alive because if he keeps him alive, maybe we can change this. It's a bit weird.
Toward the end of 2020, they said the most important person in the country was Ruth Bader Ginsburg's trainer, trying to keep her alive. And I don't mean this callous, and I don't mean this as a joke or discounting her life. They were literally trying to keep her alive until Biden got elected, so that the Republicans wouldn't do exactly what they did, put the handmaid on the Supreme Court. And while we're on the subject of can you imagine Ketanji Brown Jackson in the midst of her hearings crying and yelling, "I like beer"? Would we even be having this conversation? I mean, we say it as a joke, but it's that bad. It's that bad. And the Republicans, and are the Democrats bad? Yes, the Democrats are bad, but it's like 20% bad on the Democratic side to 80% bad on the Republican side, and we pretend it's the same. It's not the same. The Republicans, the last two justices they put on the court are unqualified for the court. One of them is a religious extremist. Okay, you talk about extremes. Now we know that we have 2 Supreme Court justices that do as their spouses tell them, right? Clarence Thomas does what his wife says, and the handmaid does what her husband says because she read that in the Bible. It is ridiculous.
The greatest nation in the history of the earth.